Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, Quinn. I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective, and you just heard Revel 9's All I've Become. That's been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And another exciting interview here today, conducted via the Zoom machine. I have Sebastian Ortiz, who is a New Jersey-based musician. His new song, Every Day She Comes Back, is out now on all the streaming platforms, talks about the push and pull of toxic love. But beyond that, we get into a pretty deep discussion about the journey, about the creative process. Sebastian's very much an artist who is uncovering his purpose and going out and living that purpose. And so this is a really exciting conversation with an artist who has so much to share and so much ahead of him. So very excited about this one. Let's get to it. All right, everyone. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I am here joined via the Zoom machine by Sebastian Ortiz. He is a musician, new single, Every Day She Comes Back, released recently, forthcoming music on the way as well. Sebastian, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So I ask every guest of the show 3 standard questions to start us off, and feel free to answer these however you would like. Those 3 questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Well, I guess I'm Sebastian. I guess I'm a human. I'm a citizen of the earth, just like everybody else listening to this, unless you're an animal listening. I am a musician. I make music. The second one was passions, right?
Yeah.
Music is a passion. Nature, cooking. I like connecting with people, educating. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about. I feel I was talking about that with my girlfriend yesterday. Anyway, and number 3, why on earth would I want to come to Quinn Spinn to talk about my single? And I guess educate people about what's going on in my life and other things that I'm starting to get interested in, like starting to get really interested into the climate change conversation. But yeah.
All right. Well, we've got plenty to cover here today, of course. And of course, all of your perspective informs your art as a true artist. And so let's go back from the beginning, as far back as you want to go, like all the way back in your upbringing. You're a first generation American, and certainly that's informed your perspective, growing up in America, and also in how you show up in the world, how you show up for your music and for your art. And so let's dive into some of the formative experiences, people, places, even musical influences that helped mold you and shape your creative vision and direction.
I think some of the earlier really good experiences that my parents gave me. I guess my mom, she would take me to the New York Philharmonic when I was little. They had like the young people's concert. Like at the time, I didn't really know what any of that was. I was only like 4 or 5 years old, but she would take me there maybe like once or twice a year, and just seeing all those instruments, yes, and hearing all the pieces by these amazing composers. I guess that somehow began to instill this deep love of music, this deep connection with it. And I were like because they would have the Philharmonic musicians around Lincoln Center, like they would like play their instruments. You could play their instruments, and you would like demo and all this stuff. There were drum circles. And I think that was something that really kind of just like started that little spark of music. And then of course there was like a piano around the house, not like a piano like that. It was like a little keyboard, like $100 Casio, something like that. And I would just like play with it here and there. My parents always listened to a lot of my mom listened to a lot of music. She loves classical music. She loved like a salsa. Like Latin music. She would always play that around the house. Music's always playing at her place. And I think just that kind of environment where there's always music playing and appreciation for music. None of my family were musicians, but they definitely had an appreciation for it.
So, as the first person then to pursue music professionally, was there a particular moment for you that led you to think, okay, I'm doing this. This is the path I want to go on. This is what I want to do with my life?
Yeah, I guess there was one moment, if you want to call it a moment. I guess I started playing guitar in the sixth grade, and I guess since I started playing that instrument, since I picked it up, it was almost like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing. There wasn't a doubt as to what that I would be doing something different. It was just always a conviction. And then as I grew up and went through high school, I started like thinking about other careers, like, oh, maybe I'll be a doctor, maybe I'll go into the military. I don't know. Maybe I'll do these other things because I guess at the back of my mind there wasn't a music didn't feel like a very secure thing to be doing.
Mm.
Ended up going to school for business, and that was an okay time. I'm grateful for it in its own ways, but in retrospect, I would have liked to have studied music. So I'm in college now. It's my first year, and I was in a pretty bad place that first year, but I always like to read. I remember reading this book. It's called Awaken the Giant by Tony Robbins. It's like the most, I don't know, like cheesy cover. He's like smiling, and it's like you can do it. And I started to read it, and I felt very inspired by it. It's like, oh wow, what if I really can do this thing that has been my dream since I was little. And in reading that, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this. And since that moment is when I started to take it more seriously. And as the years went on, I would, put in more time, put in more of this, and just take it more and more seriously. And yeah, playing with other musicians, releasing my singles, playing shows, organizing shows. It all started accumulating, and here I am now on a podcast, which is kind of surreal now that I think about it.
Well, I think there's an important lesson there is, it's hard to see the way forward when the path doesn't exist, right? When it hasn't been created yet, it's hard to see what can be created. But by finding inspiration, you mentioned reading that book by Tony Robbins, by finding ways to take action, by having that blueprint kind of laid out for you, whether it's in the literature you read and the content you consume, then you're able to start to think like those gears start turning, right? It's like, okay, like this person created something from nothing. So I can create something from nothing. And that's the thing too, is we're all on this journey where we're creating something from zero, right? Any platform that we're building, any creative endeavor, it starts just with an idea. And it's hard to see the actual thing, when
Yeah,
there's no tangible evidence of it, right? It really is a journey of faith, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in a, I'm going to go in this direction and see what happens, and I'm going to test things out, and some of them are going to work, most of them probably aren't, especially in the
yeah,
beginning. And you just have to trust in that long enough to continue to find better ways forward. And it's, I think, easy, early in the journey to get discouraged because you're not used to that. You're not used to, things when they don't work out. It's the uncharted wilderness. And when you run into something that looks like danger, it can be easy to not know how to respond to that, to react to that. But really, the way is to take it in, observe it, figure
yeah,
out the better way forward from there, if in fact there is one. If something doesn't go the way that you want it to go, then okay, what could I have done differently, and what could the result of that be? Okay, let's try that. It's a lot of testing hypotheses, and even though we're not scientists, there is a science to it.
yeah. Definitely, it takes a lot of perseverance, energy, and yeah, you're gonna fail, but I think failure is definitely part of the process. Uh, the faster you fail, the more you learn. What doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. Okay, well, what am I going to do differently next time? You just have to do it fast. And I guess that's another thing. It's like I'm not going to take my time. It's like, oh, I can do that next week. It's like I need to do things now because time is happening now. The clock's ticking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you just never know. You never know when it's going to run out. You never know, how long of a window you have, and life can happen,
yeah,
in the midst of all that. And take you in a different direction. So while you have the opportunity, you do have to just go for it and see what happens. And, of course, that is to say having a plan, and having goals and having, the mindset to achieve those goals. But there's always, I think, a way forward if you're willing to look for it and if you're willing to put in that work. And it seems like you've come to that place.
Yeah, I was looking at my Instagram profile yesterday, just like over the years, it's like how videos would have like, 60 views, 80 views, 100 views. Like, wow. And like now I'm looking now, it's like regularly 1,000. It's like in this range. It's like, well, I guess that's 10 times more than I had. And that's only gonna keep changing. It was a nice trip down memory lane for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you can't ignore those signs of progress as they come. It's important, I think, to just take stock of where you've come from, how far you've come, the lessons you've learned. I mean, we've been doing this show, for it's our 10th year, and I
Oh,
think back to those early days, 2013, 14, we had no idea what we were doing, but it was in those experiences that we learned the better way. And
congratulations on the 10th year. That's a lot.
yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip. We've been celebrating all year. It's coming up, this summer officially. August 17th was the conception of the show. September 8th was the first episode. And that's the thing. It just started as a creative outlet. It just started as something, a little break from corporate America, and it's turned into this whole thing, that runs my life in one way or another. But that's the thing, is like you can create that, you can create something from nothing, something from an idea that literally comes to you in your bedroom, when you're listening to your college radio show, or, when you first pick up a guitar. Like that can take you to places you can't even imagine. But you have to stay in the game long enough, and you have to be willing to learn those lessons. And like you said, you have to be willing to fail, fail forward, as they say, keep
Yeah.
finding ways to improve, keep finding ways to get better and to progress, no matter what comes your way. So I do want to switch gears though, because you've also had a chance to live a well-traveled life. You've had encounters with impactful strangers, opportunities to perform alongside some of your musical idols, in your travels. So how would you say that has shaped your art? Yeah, that sense of curiosity, that adventurous spirit.
How has it shaped my art? I feel like it's almost like it's symbiotic, maybe, because also art has shaped that and how I approach life. I don't know, I guess I just feel like I can draw on a lot of experiences and a lot of people that I've met into not only my art, but just how I view and take on life. Certainly, those living abroad, that's been probably one of the best things I can experience. Anyone can have. You're living in a country where people speak a different language, they speak a different culture. It's it's so different, and it's so shocking because you're coming from America, and where things here you're kind of used to them being a certain way, and then you go there, it's like, oh wow, it's like it's a pretty different culture. uh Shocking in a really good way. It's like, okay, so other people think this way. It's just like seeing like different worlds. And the more world experiences that you have, the more rich art you can create, I guess, because you're not drawing on this little slice of life. It's a bigger something bigger that you're drawing from.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. This sense of worldly perspective, and understanding how things go outside of your bubble, is really important. I was just talking to somebody who'd just gotten back from Costa Rica, and apparently the pace of life in Costa Rica compared to America is way slower. And she was telling me how like it's this adjustment, like coming back to America, and like everything just seems like it's flying all around your head, whereas like you're on island time down there, you're in this beautiful tropical country, and things just have a chance to slow down. You get to catch a breath, and then you come back, especially if you're coming back to a city, or a suburb near a city. Like it's go go go, breakneck pace, and it's this adjustment, between different lifestyles, and having that perspective and being able to travel and see the world and see how people do things in their different corners surely that's informed how you want to show up and impact the world. So how would you say that shows up in your music as far as the impact that you want to have?
I separate from my music, I do think about the world. I think about climate change
Mhm.
and this issue a lot. I guess, yeah, separate from my music, but there's so many people suffering out there because of the effect that we have on them. As you know, as people who live in the United States, where we consume so much and all this, we're disproportionately responsible. First world countries, you know, Western Europe, we're disproportionately responsible for so much of the other world, so many of the other billions. And I haven't met those billions. I definitely haven't, but I keep them in mind a lot for, I guess, for my life mission. Not my music mission, just like my life mission. Like this is, you know, we need to lift everybody up. We need to equalize more. Uh, I don't know, I guess.
I mean, that's something that, can show up in your music though,
Yeah,
but that,
that's something I'm working on now.
yeah.
For just like right before this, I was just working on the song. It's like I think it's going to be about the world somehow. I'm not sure how, but it's somehow. And I'm just like trying to chip away at it, at that sculpture, seeing, just throwing words because I've got the melody now and I just need the words. But no,
Yeah, yeah, it's your truth, and it seems like you're really starting to tap into something, as far as like communicating that truth out there, and touching on those heavier topics, those more world aware topics, and it's something that our stories so often show up in what we do. I've been coming to this point a lot lately, where like they always say you're supposed to separate business and personal, right? Like that was what we were told growing up, but you can only do that to a degree because the way that you show up for yourself, the way you show up for life and for the world is going to show up in your business. It's going to show up in your platform, your art, right? So there are certain truths from one that you're going to carry over to the other, and that are going to show up, and you might not even be conscious of them, at first. Like they might kind of sneak in through the back door on you, but then you'll kind of look and be like, oh, wow, okay, that's actually really consistent with this other area of my life that I thought was unrelated. So yeah, it's really, for me, like in building this platform, it's been leaning into that a lot, and leaning into, okay, like what kind of impact do I want to have, and how does that show up through this platform, and, our vehicle at UMC is music, and highlighting those stories. But there's such this, you know, greater sense of, creativity and storytelling and, that rising tide raises all boats, creating community out of it that, that transcends music. Music can be the vehicle, but it doesn't have to be the whole thing, and that's what's kind of exciting about it is, and in the way that that plays with other art forms, other mediums, other areas of life, areas of the world can be pretty powerful.
yeah, definitely. It's like thinking about past big movements, political, cultural movements. There's always some type of music associated with it. And I'm wondering what's the music that I make? How is that gonna tie into something? And yeah, speaking about community, that's so important. I feel like not enough people tap into a community, a real community, and that's something so important to really have an effect on the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, also for your own well-being, just to be part of something. Because if you're just stuck isolated to your family or to work, that might feel, unfulfilling. There needs to be something else, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's always got to be about something bigger than you. And I think like, when a lot of people are starting their musical journey, their creative journey, it's this matter of like, oh, well, I just want to get big and I want to be discovered and I want to be this, but why? Why do you want that? What about what you're trying to do is bigger than you? What about what you're trying to do is going to have that impact, build that community, and enrich not only your life but the lives of those around you, right? And it seems like you're really starting to hit on that, as far as like, combining all these different things. It's an exciting time, to kind of see an artist like yourself really putting all of that together, and
Yeah,
having that light the way forward.
it's really exciting for me.
Yeah.
Like just yeah, this honestly just this past week is like when it all started to come together. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah,
Uh,
those light bulb moments will sneak up on you. They'll
yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those, it's energizing, it's galvanizing in a sense when you
Yeah.
realize like everything that's happening. And it can be a little intimidating too, realizing, oh, well, there's a different version of me that has to show up now. There's a new version of me that, maybe needs to learn some new skills, or maybe needs to, have a better understanding of this area or that area, but that's all in the process of leveling up, and by seeing the progress, that encourages you to keep going and keep challenging yourself in that way. So it's one of those things where, when you hit those light bulb moments, those exciting moments, it does power you forward, and it powers you forward into the unknown, but it's a worthwhile journey nonetheless.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no. Very, very exciting.
So you've also had the opportunity to work on the label side of the industry a bit here. And so having seen the industry from that side as well as an artist, what do you think independent artists should know as they embark on their journeys in the music industry?
Everybody's on a different level. I
Mm-hmm.
can't speak to independent artists who are, I guess, more successful metrically speaking, than I am. But for people who are really just starting out, image is everything. Image is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first started interning at this label. It's called Deep Root Records. It's a house music label. And to be fair, it's pretty different genre than what I make.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that first summer that I was interning there, they would have a photographer for every event they would be having, and like everything was with a photographer, videographer. It's like, okay, we need to get the best footage possible because people. This is what people see. That people who don't know you, if they see like a low quality video, it's like, oh, like just gonna skip over that. It's like, oh, this doesn't look professional. It needs to look good. I don't know how much I can stress that, but your visuals, that's the first thing people see before they even listen to you. They see the cover art, they see your Instagram profile, they see your website before they listen to you. If it doesn't look good, you're already primed to not have a good impression of the music. So make sure your visuals are good. And I still need to work on mine, and I'm just trying to like really get into the groove of what my visuals are. But just for your events, hire a photographer. Like if you have if you're gonna play a gig, make sure you have a photographer, a videographer, somebody there to shoot it. High quality camera. An iPhone will be okay, but image is very important. And I guess
Yeah.
don't. Yeah,
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 I love that you made that point because it's so often the first impression that people get, before they hear a single note. They're going to see you on social media. They're going to see you on somebody else's social media page. They're going to, if somebody's at your show, they're sharing their stories, like so often that's the first impression before they even go to the streaming platforms, before they even buy the music, if people still are buying music, which is kind of a lost art in itself, but it's a story for another day. But like, yeah, your visual representation nowadays as an artist is just as important, if not maybe even a little more important than what you actually sound like. Not to say you should neglect the music, because
yeah.
certainly that needs to be, of the highest quality relative to your genre, right? You need to be able to hear that on a playlist next to, the heavy hitters in your genre. That's who you're competing for market share with at the end of the day, if you're taking this as a serious endeavor. But with that too, look at how those artists at the top of their field, at the top of your genre, are branding themselves. Look at what they're putting out there. I guarantee you they're not putting blurry photos that somebody took on their cell phone from 50 feet away. They are curating their presence. They are making sure everything's of the highest quality. Now, of course, if you're Taylor Swift, you have the budget to do all that and more, right? If you've quote unquote made it, but like even so, there are plenty of talented independent creatives that you can work with and hire within wherever, within range of wherever you live, who can give you that quality at bat. And I love that you made that point because, I think so often people just get hung up on, well, I just want to like write music, man, and perform my music. Well, that's not the game anymore. I don't know if it ever really was the game. It's just there's more at your disposal now, to promote yourself, and you really have to wear that marketing, that branding hat. So I'm really glad you brought that up because I think that's so valuable to any independent artist listening. Is it's so much more now than I'm talented and I write good songs. It's, what is this whole brand you've created? And that brand should come from an authentic place, but it needs to be presented in a way that's going to stand out. So I love that you brought that up, Sebastian. Thanks so much for that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that. Um, I want to talk about your music, of course, now. Every Day She Comes Back deals with the push and pull of obsessive love. And so I want you to take us through the creative process of the single and where the inspiration came from, how maybe your experiences in loving and letting go show up here on the new single.
Yeah, I wrote this song probably about a year ago now,
Mhm.
a year, 11 months ago. And my writing process at the time, I haven't been as good about it lately, but I would just write every day. Like I would get up early, six in the morning, just write like the first thing, like the first 2 hours a day, just like get something out. Okay. And at the time of writing this song, I was I was 2 months after breakup. It was kind of fresh, and it was very hard for me to get over this person. And also there was somebody else who was on my mind. And is these people, um I had a dream with one of them one of these nights, and I just woke up like the lyric "frightened kisses in my dreams." I forget what the actual image was in the dream, but I just remember like the feeling of a kiss and like being like scared, just like a beating, scared, stressed heart, something like that. I remember waking up with that. I was like, okay, that'll be a cool something cool. And yeah, this morning that was a song that I wrote. And sometimes the songs that I write are like, okay, that one's fine. I'll just toss it to the right. But this one's like, oh, this one feels pretty good. I think I'll keep working that a little more. And I did, and I got a nice little demo out of it. And I started working with this really cool producer. His name's Jacob Leventhal, and I showed him a few songs, and this one I played for him. Just like 20 seconds of the song. I was like, yeah, we'll do that one. That one's really good. And that's how we ended up working on that one. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, yeah. So you knew what you had there, like it seemed like, it's one of those organic moments, where the song just kind of flowed and
Yeah.
where you had the idea, you brought it in, and it's just one of those magic moments in the studio, right? Where it's like, yep, that's the one. We're going to lead with this, you know? And so it's the first, of course, in this cycle of more music to come. There's a whole EP on the way as
Oh
well.
yeah.
So,
So excited for that.
so what can you tell us about it, as far as where you are in the process, what we can expect, when we can expect it?
Yeah, you can expect it probably sometime in the fall.
Mhm.
Two of the singles are recorded now. I'm working on three more with my producer, and I might be self-producing some of them. I wouldn't be mixing them, but I'm working on two others on my own. So I don't know how many are gonna end up on the EP. I think probably like 4 or 5 songs, and I'm very excited for it because it's gonna be my first, I guess, my first project, not just singles, but like actual project for people to digest and listen to. And I'm so excited for it. It's going to be a real statement, I think, for me. I think I'll be able to take myself more serious as an artist. Like, okay, why not? I actually have an EP. I've been talking about this for years. When am I going to make the EP? This is when it's happening now.
So
Um,
I have a question there. So your first EP, your first, project of length, aside from releasing singles, what's the difference in this creative process, of putting a project together of this nature as opposed to releasing singles? Like, have you noticed anything about this process that stands out to you that's maybe different or something you weren't expecting, something challenging?
yeah, I think the challenging thing is choosing what songs are gonna be on it. Because
Mhm.
with singles, it's like maybe like you just like choose like 1 out of 10, but it's like, okay, now what are the 5 out of the 30? It's like, okay, now there's like a lot of whittling down to do. It's like, oh man, God, I really like this song. Oh, but I really like that song too. But I can't do all these songs. It's really hard to choose which ones you want to you want to release and which ones just hold.
Yeah. Yeah. You might be feeling one in a moment too. And then like that moment kind of passes and you kind of move on to another one, but then you come back to something, later on. And that's a beautiful part is like even the things that don't make the cut now, like you could use them later. You could use them on a whole other project if you wanted to, but it's interesting to see, like, when you get to that process, of what stays and what goes, it teaches you to prioritize, what feels good in the moment, what serves the project, what serves the overall vision at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Um, it's been a good, really, really good time. It's I guess with past singles and releases, I wouldn't feel serious. Not that I didn't take them seriously, but it just didn't feel very official or authentic to me. But something else for independent artists is the more money that you actually invest in your project, the more you're going to take it seriously yourself. Because I've started to put in more money. It's like, oh shit, this is actually, sorry, I don't know if I should say.
No, it's fine. It's the internet. It's the Wild West. I am nodding along in agreement. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now there's like two parts of me that are invested in it, like one, my soul, but also like my 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 cash, my hard-earned money. It's like it just gets you invested into it in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's another thing. That's another really wise nugget here, because like I think when a lot of artists begin their journey, it's about, okay, well, I'm a starving artist, so I have no money to invest in anything. Well, then you're going to stay on that merry-go-round. You're going to stay where you are. Eventually, you've got to start investing into your project, into your career, if in fact you see it as a career,
Yeah,
and it's so important, because you're investing into the production, you're investing into the visual branding, like we talked about before, like you're investing into actually making this a vehicle for you, into actually building a brand, building a business, right? And the more you invest, to your point, the more committed you're going to be to seeing that
yeah.
through, because you have to. You have no choice.
And
Like,
it's also psychological because you're putting money in yourself, and there's almost like a connection to it. It's like you believe in this, you believe in it more because you're putting money. It's like, okay, no, I really believe in myself. And working with the producer and with Angela, it's like, okay, now I'm actually really taking myself seriously. I've got my band, like I've got to pay them too. But it's at the same time, it's like, okay, but this is actually happening now. I actually have a band that I can play with. It's so cool.
yeah,
So
yeah,
with this EP, I talk about it now, and it feels like really official. Like, yeah, no, this is what's happening. I'm releasing an EP, and I feel so ready for it because I put so much behind me, or I've invested so much. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm ready for this. This isn't going to be just like like a little drop in anywhere. This is like it's an EP. It's a project, and I'm ready for it.
yeah. And it inspires you to keep showing up and to keep creating and to keep, building toward the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and just, yeah, having that account, it keeps you accountable too. You've got, it's bigger than you've got, a producer, you've got a band, you have a publicist, you have all these people that are now counting on you and trying to help you succeed. So it helps you in such a profound way keep showing up, not only for yourself and not only for your dream, but for the collective efforts of everybody. And that's such a powerful thing, and that's something that I've really come to realize, especially over the past couple of years, is like, when you have those people on your team, it's more than just your success or your failure. It's a team project. It's a
Yeah.
team. It's a team dynamic where everybody has some kind of buy-in, and so it inspires you to show up and show up as a continually better version of yourself. I think that's a really, really powerful lesson. Thank you again for sharing that. And speaking of lessons, we're coming up on the end, but before we go, I ask this question now at the end of every episode. If there's one essential lesson from throughout the course of your career to this point that you would impart upon a younger version of yourself or somebody just beginning their journey, what would that be?
Try to think about what I tell my younger self, and is just take the risks that you've been scared to take.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about things I've been doing now, just like sending that email. It's like, oh no, they're not going to reply to me. It's like, just send it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think fear is a killer. It is, it gets in the way. And I think that's an important one too, is like, you can let it stop you or you can push past it and see what happens. It's definitely going to be a no if you don't push past it. But if you do, maybe it's yes, maybe it's still a no, but at least you put it out there, and it helps you point that compass in a more true direction to where you're trying to go.
Yeah, well, it's similar to what we were talking about earlier. Just keep persistence, determination. That's You're gonna learn more as you keep failing and just pursuing that thing. You're throwing energy at it. It's something like law of attraction. I believe in that. I don't know how like on what scientific level, but I believe in that to some degree. Where if you're putting energy into something, you're gonna receive it.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
keep putting energy into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever you feed is what's going to continue to grow, I think. And I think, there are a lot of conversations happening, and certainly in the podcast space right now, about the law of attraction, right? And like, what does it mean? Is it legitimate? How does it work? That kind of thing. And I think like if, you know, you're looking at the law of attraction as something where it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to wish this into the universe and it's going to come to me, then you're barking up the wrong tree, right? But the law of attraction, as far as to your point, like the energy that you're putting into something, and the deliberate action you're taking towards something, that's what you're going to attract. And I think that's where it comes into play is like, you can focus on the negative, you can focus on the things you don't want to do, but you're only going to get more of those things because that's where your focus is, right? But if you focus on what you're building and what you're creating and finding ways to do that, you're going to be more prone to find those ways, and that's something I struggled with for a long time, was like, focusing on the wrong things and like wondering why the wrong things were showing up. I think we all go through a phase of that at least, but like, yeah, it's really just a matter of putting forth your intentional, deliberate energy towards something. And man, you're well on your way. So I congratulate you on that. And, definitely appreciate the insight and the conversation.
And
And
thank you so much for having me. It's been really, really a pleasure to speak with you.
absolutely. Right back at you. Really excited to see where it takes you from here. Before we sign off, though, I do want to give you a chance to let people know where they can learn more about you and follow the journey online.
You can go to my website, sebastianortiz.com. Check out my Instagram, sebastian.l for Leonardo, .ortiz. And, on Spotify, just looking up Sebastian Ortiz, it'll be me like with the not gray, black and white. I'll be smiling, half smiling with these golden aviator glasses. Guess they're gray in the profile photo. Yeah.
All right. Sebastian Ortiz on the Quinn Spinn. I'll be back to wrap things up in just a second. So there you have it. Sebastian Ortiz joining us today on the Quinn Spinn. I want to thank Sebastian for sharing his music and his story with us. And again, so exciting to see an artist going in pursuit of his purpose. And if you want to pursue your purpose, but maybe don't know where to start, we have something for you at Underground Music Collective. Point Toward Purpose is our group goal setting and coaching intensive taking place here in Nashville, Saturday, July 22nd, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Helping Our Music Evolve. That is 615 Main Street, Suite G1 in Nashville. And the session is going to be a pretty solid introduction to our UMC coaching program as far as the foundational elements. Of course, identifying your values, setting your mission and vision, and then setting goals and the actionable steps to take to pursue them. So very excited about that. Learn more about it at Underground Music Collective. Excited to get you all together and connect just like we do every week here on the Quinn Spinn. 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. Also on Instagram at Quinn Spinn Official. 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin, like I think I said. And you can learn more about the show at undergroundmusiccollective.com, our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. UMC's on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Follow the UMC 20 playlist on Spotify, 20 fresh tracks, and the latest episode or episodes of this podcast. And Nash Live has all your local event hookups at Nash Live Shows on Instagram. That was weird the way I said that, but I'm not going to edit it because we do things for real here at the Quinn Spinn. Roll Nine's all become. Gonna take us out like it brought us in, and I'll see you next time. Grab some muffins on your way out.